I'm going to review this review of The Long Walk by Anita reads.
Next published work of Stephen King's was just The Long Walk by Richard Bachman. This is
People say it was written by Richard Bachman. He actually wrote it before he came up with the pen name. It's written by Stephen King, published under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. I just have an issue on the way people word that. They'll say it was written as Richard Bachman. It was Richard Bachman wrote it.
story set in Maine, which most of his stories is.
It's actually set in Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. It goes through those 3 states. And it actually starts at the border of Canada. If the starting post is on the border, which it says, there's a stone starting post at the border of Canada and Maine, and the boys line up behind that in rows of 10, that means that they're actually starting in Canada, and then they cross the border when they start at 9 a.m. on May 1st.
Every year there's this big competition called the Long Walk that you enter, and then you have to walk from Maine, and then I forgot the destination.
There's no destination. You'll hear reviews saying, oh, it's 450 miles, it's 400 miles, there's a finish line. There's no finish line. The finish line is when there's one person left alive. There is actually a finish line if you take Route 1 south. When they get onto Route 1 south in Freeport, they're going to stay on Route 1 south. And I traced it, and it goes all the way to Florida. And in fact, Stebbins would say, I feel like I could go all the way to Florida. It actually dead ends on the peninsula of Key West. And I imagine if there's more than one person still alive, by the time they reach there, they would probably award all the survivors winners, because that would be extreme. They only get a small fraction of that distance.
I think, but it was a really long walk. That's what I remember, and they had to keep a certain pace.
Kind of hard. Seems like she's read it at least a year or more ago, and so she's struggling to remember the details.
During this walk, and
now they say they have to maintain a pace. That's not true either. You'll hear from reviews, oh, they have to maintain 4 miles per hour. Like, exactly? They can maintain any pace they want, but if they're under 4 miles per hour, their 2-minute timer counts down, and when it reaches 90, 60, or 30, they get a first, second, or third warning and a ticket at 0.
If they didn't, they get warnings, like 3 warnings, I think.
So you hear that a lot. If they drop below speed, they get a warning. I mean, technically that's correct, but you could drop below 4 miles per hour 29 times for just 1 second, and your timer would be at 91, and you still wouldn't even have your first warning yet. So it's not quite how it works. People say you stumble, you get a warning. You fall down, you get a warning. You sit down, you get a warning. You slow down, you get a warning. It's not true. You only get a warning when your timer drops to those thresholds, 90, 60, 30, and your timer only counts down when you're moving under 4 miles per hour, or you break a rule that gets you a penalty warning. Then it instantly drops to the next threshold, or a ticket if you have 3 warnings.
And if they still didn't keep up with that pace, they would be shot and killed. So
kind of an oversimplification, but when you're giving like a synopsis, you're forced to oversimplify. I mean, I did come up with a synopsis that's 100% accurate, but it wasn't easy.
It's basically a last man standing thing, so the one that gets to the finish line.
No finish line, except finish line is when there's one person left standing, one person left alive. You always want to say last man standing, but got to clarify. You got to be more specific than that. The standing, okay, everybody's sitting, last man standing, last man alive.
Usually there's not a whole lot that ends up getting there, because then they get...
Not a whole lot that get there, only one gets there.
This is definitely my favorite Richard Bachman novel so far. and I highly recommend this one. If you want to read a Bachman novel, then definitely go for this one. I think this is the best one there is.